Okay, today's special guest is Matthew Goodwin. So over to you, Matthew. Tell the listeners about yourself.
Morning, Matt. Morning, everyone. I'm Matthew Goodwin. I'm the director and one of the co-owners at Goodwin Healthcare Services, based in Scunthorpe, North Lincolnshire. The company provides care to people in their own homes, and we also do supported living as well. The company has now been operating 10 years this year. So obviously that's an achievement in itself, something that we will be celebrating. We employ approximately 90 staff and provide care to approximately 70 service users. We are on the contract with the local authority and the CCG, also known as the NHS, and we do a proportion of private work as well.
Okay, great. Yeah. And let's rewind right back to the start then, Matthew. Tell us about you from being a child, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. So born and bred in Scunthorpe. I have an older sister, Claire. I went to Linton Prep. It's a private school in Scunthorpe. I think my parents sent me there because I was behind at primary school, and they felt that I needed to play catch up. Anyway, so went there with Claire, and from a young age, very driven. I think that was more to do with my parents encouraging us to work hard. And there was also an element of that at the school. There was a competitiveness there. I've also always been had an interest in sport. So from a young age, playing football, playing rugby, did a little bit of karate as well. And finished my studies at private school. Then went on and passed my 11 plus. Went to Queen Elizabeth High School in Gainsborough, which is a grammar school. There again, worked very hard. Also run alongside it, I also always had a keen interest in sports, predominantly rugby through my teens, but also randomly used to throw discus at county level for Scunthorpe and district athletics.
What was your PB on that, Matthew?
Oh, God, I can't remember now. I'm going to say about 35 metres, but if I'm honest, I can't remember.
Sounds impressive.
Yeah. I do recall quite randomly that the coach, he had a running background, so when we used to turn up for training twice a week, he used to take me for long runs, and I used to think, well, what's this got to do with discus? But anyway, it taught me the love for running actually as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. So in terms of your profession or chosen profession, how did you end up in healthcare then?
Okay, so I finished my studies at high school, went to John Laggett College in Scunthorpe, and then went to Sheffield Hallam University, studied a degree in criminology. Always the intention from around the age of 16 to go in the police force, and then I learnt about the graduate scheme that the police office offer, if you know what I mean. But I'm not sure if they still do that, but at the time they did. So I thought, criminology, an interest in that anyway. So I thought, well, it'd be a good degree to study. So I finished my studies at Sheffield Hallam University, and I don't mind admitting I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So that scuppered my plans.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So early 20s. Came back to live in Scunthorpe, went to work for my uncle in his firm, and that, in a real nutshell, was installing heating systems in commercial domestic properties. Mm-hmm. And if I'm honest, it was a big business, and I was fortunate enough to learn a lot working there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of your routine, I know you've been at your company since the ground up, really, and you should be really proud of what you and your family have achieved. So, do you want to compare your routine from when you first started to maybe how it is now, just to maybe show it's not all glamour? Because we all know whatever business we're in, it's not all that it's perceived and cracked up to be. So, what was it like at the beginning? You can be honest.
Okay. So I started the company, just a little bit of background, started the company with my mum, Gina, and her background is she was a social worker and assistant director at Norfolk Council, Adult Social Services. So, and then I obviously had the background in the business. Anyway, so we started the company together, and if I'm honest, the first 3 to maybe 4/5 years was hard work, 7 days a week. As you can imagine, because you don't have the staff really to deliver the care. Myself and my mum would be out 7 days a week delivering the care ourselves, so we had to learn fast. Things around moving, handling, medication. It's much more complex than what some people perceive as well.
Yeah.
So it was just full on in terms of the finances. There was many a times I said to I'd say to my wife, this isn't worth it, because my wife was a primary school teacher at the time. I said, well, why don't I go into teaching or just do something else? It was just horrific at times. Sorry, but very, very stressful.
Mm-hmm. And your routine now, how does that look, just to contrast it?
Well, yeah, good question. It's very much more flexible because I've always been my own boss, but we now have the established company. It not runs itself, but it does all of itself. So I predominantly just look after the finances, so I can dip in and out if you like. I always have an ear to the ground, know what's going on, but I do have a lot of more time to spend with my family. I've got young children, and also time to train as well, which is my other passion. So it was worth it.
Yeah,
in the long run.
Great. Which brings us on to the next segment, really, which is to talk about hobbies and interests. Now, it's not going to be very often that I get to speak to somebody that's represented Great Britain. So, do you want to explain about to the listeners what you've just accomplished?
Absolutely. So I competed at the European Championships, and that's in the sprint duathlon, and it was in Venice in Italy. And for those that don't know, a sprint duathlon is a run, bike, run. And the distance is a 5k run, and then a 12-mile bike, and then a 1.5 mile run, which in terms of distance, it's not a long distance, but you can imagine it's very fast and intense.
Yeah.
So, I've been a member of the local tri club called Off That Couch Fitness for the past 5 years, and it just organically developed through that, and I just such a love for it, and love for both cycling and running. Not so much swimming, but that's how it came about.
Fabulous. Yeah. So was you pleased with your result and the experience?
Yeah, I was really happy, if I'm honest. I came 6th out of the British lads that were competed. Yeah. There's 12 British lads, and then I came 9th overall. So I wanted a top 10 place, but when you're racing with there's a Polish lad, there was a lad from Italy, Germany. It was just great in terms of the camaraderie and the banter. Just a one-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah, what a setting to compete in at Venice as well. Fabulous.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. Did you get any downtime after the event to spend a little bit of time in Venice?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we flew out on the Thursday, competed on the Saturday. My wife, young children came, and my parents. So post-race we was there till Tuesday. So we went into Venice, spent the day there. It was just lovely, showing the kids around. Taking the kids to the beach. It was, just some downtime as well, away from structured training.
Okay. In terms of the random question, I think it sometimes provides an insight into people's mind. If I was to throw you on a desert island right now, what one item would you take? Now, family members, we can leave to one side. This is more perhaps a material possession. What would you take if you were posed with that question?
Okay, you might be cheating saying this, but I read every evening. I love reading, so I'd like to take a book. One of my many books. Yeah. If not, I know you said one, but if it wasn't a book, it'd be my running trainers.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fabulous. Do you have a particular favourite book, author, or style of book to read?
I love biographies. Yeah. So one of the latest ones, actually a life changer for me, which helped me change my lifestyle to then go on, I feel, to represent Great Britain, was a book by a man called Richard Roll, an ex-alcoholic, who went on to completely transform his life. Yeah. And he's competed in ultramarathons, Ironmans, so forth, but he also runs his own business around self-help and, helping people with their own lives, and it's very inspirational.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. Again, it leads nicely into the next question for you to answer. And speaking about mental health in general, can either be from a personal perspective or people around you, or just a general view on it. What does mental health mean to you? How do you manage your own? How do you advise other people to perhaps deal with any issues that they've got? And how do you think society handles it for others?
Really, really good question. If I'm honest, right, so past 2-3 years, obviously, we've all been through COVID, and I think that's had an effect on everybody. Without maybe some people realising it, the fact that you were, isolated at home and not having the opportunity to socialise. But anyway, for me, I've truthfully found exercise as a way to help with my mental health, the release of the stress, focus, self-worth. Obviously, like everybody, I have my down days, but I've got a strong network around me, family and friends. Yeah. But my wife is also studying counselling. She's gone back to college, so she's learning a lot of techniques to help with stress. Yeah, but actually for me as well, I'm not saying I had a problem with alcohol, but like a lot of people, or some people, at the weekend where you'd open a bottle of wine and it probably progressed into the week, becoming maybe too reliant on alcohol. Yeah. So 6 months ago, I cut alcohol out completely. And if I'm honest, I feel 100 times better for doing that. But I'm not saying everybody should do that, but it worked for me.
Excellent. Yes, it's different approaches work for different people. Right. In terms of anybody inspirational in business, is there anybody that you particularly follow? I know you mentioned earlier the author of the book, so it might actually be that individual. Is there somebody that you look up to, not as a copy or as a poster person, if you like, just that you think that person aligns with how I believe things should be done, and I admire what their company delivers? Is there anybody? There doesn't have to be, by the way. It's just a question I like to ask.
Not in terms of the company delivers, but it would come back to Richard Roll. He's just had a massive impact on me. Yeah. So I would really strongly advise anybody that hasn't read it to read his book. I can't remember the name of the book, if I'm honest, but the author, he's called Richard Roll.
Okay, we'll get that title of that book, and we'll get it posted in the comments below the podcast. So, right, the next question: where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Again, a good question. Ideally, we want to develop the company, and also look at a property portfolio. But also, running alongside everything I do, I'm also delving into coaching. So I've got leadership in running fitness with British Athletics, and I've also just done my level 2 triathlon coaching with British Triathlon. So my mid to long term aim is to try and encourage my children to get involved in athletics, triathlons, and also just get into coaching in general.
Yeah, going back to your earlier point with regards to your diagnosis and epilepsy, if you don't mind talking about that, how has that impacted your professional working life, your general life, and also and the very nature of you being sporty and having sporty interest? Have you had to adjust a lot, and how do you feel people react around you when they hear that for the first time? Do you still feel there's a stigma is not a right word, but just a misunderstanding about what that means?
Yeah, that's good question. Fortunate for me, it's always been under control. I take lamotrigine twice a day, medication. Yeah. So I've only had one major grand mal, it's called, seizure when I was 21. So touch wood, I think, I will be on medication for the rest of my life, but in terms of stigma, I don't, if I'm honest, tell a lot of people. It's more just people that I work with or associate with. Yeah. So I don't usually broadcast it, but to be fair, it's something I felt ashamed, if I'm honest. Right. As daft as that may sound, but when I was in my early mid-20s, I thought, a young, fit, strong lad. I thought, this can't be me. But I've learned as I'm growing older just to live with it. Yeah. And it is just a part of me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great answer. If you could do, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? What bit of advice would you give, or your experience? How would you try and not change that 20-year-old person, but if you could just give them one bit of information that might help them on the way, what would you say?
Well, I could have jumped straight back into the sporting ground. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, but anyway, when I was in my 20s, obviously we went to uni in Sheffield, and we had the peaks on our doorstep. Yeah. So I would have loved to have had a bike. Yeah. And the amount of free time we had as well. Instead of sitting around playing on the PlayStation, drinking tea, I would have used that time to go out cycling and running. Yeah. I would have advised that to not have drank as much. But then when you're that age, you do like to go out and party.
Yeah, it would be a difficult sell, I think. But another great answer. In terms of for any listeners that say aren't in business, so to speak, and I don't like that phrase, but it's the easiest way that you can box it off. What would you say to them if they were considering it and either felt socially there was some kind of impact for them, or physically, or people around them are saying, there's too much risk. What would you say to them in terms of how to approach it?
Yeah, very good question. I believe if you're going into business, it's something you've really got to be passionate about, and ideally have some knowledge around as well.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to look at your own lifestyle actually as well. I mean, if you have young children, can you commit the time to running a company, particularly starting a company, because it will impact your social life, your friendships, your relationships. So just to consider all those factors first.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, if it pays off, being your own boss is nothing like it. Well, I mean, I love it, but there are a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah. Okay. One listener messaged in from the previous podcast and felt that a sensible question would be to put forward, what would you change about the tax system if you could, being that you are operating a business? So just what would you change and why?
Okay. So if just touching on VAT, I don't really personally have any views on VAT because we're VAT exempt. So I would straight away look at corporation tax.
Yeah.
My brief, vague understanding of it, obviously, my understanding is going to increase. I think 24-25% up from 19.
Yeah.
So in terms of a company our size, I say we're small to medium, turnover around 2 million. It will impact us in terms of cash flow and financially. So a little bit of fear, if you like. But obviously, we'll adapt and get through it. But ideally, it wouldn't be jumping up so high.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And just to wrap things up, really, do you have a favourite quote or a phrase even that you might have come up with yourself that you just want to leave us with, just to sign us off?
It was an old mentor. The quote is, "You are what you produce."
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across that. But
No, and I'm enjoying hearing everybody's quotes. Actually, I'm jotting these down, and eventually you might see them in one book condensed. But,
I think a lot of people may talk the talk. I mean, I mean to sound this respectfully, but actions, speak louder than words, and that's it. That's what it means, really.
Yeah.
In my head.
So is that something that you draw yourself back to in business and with your training as well? You sort of check yourself at points when maybe you feel a bit sorry for yourself. You think, well,
look what I've achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
I mean, as human, you always want more. You always, compared to people that maybe are doing better, or in your view, doing better. But I think you've just got to be proud of what you've achieved.
Okay, great. Yeah. That's been really interesting. Thank you for coming on, Matthew. And we'll hopefully get Matthew in on a future podcast and asking some different questions and give you a bit more insight to what it's like to run a business. Okay, so that's goodbye from me, Mark.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.